And we do have a clip of Doocy responding to everything that happened because Biden did call him and somewhat apologize and said it wasn't personal or whatever. So let's take a look and we'll react after. Roll tape.
Within about an hour of that exchange, he called my cell phone and he said, "It's nothing personal, pal." And we went back and forth and we were talking about just kind of moving forward. And I made sure to tell him that I'm always going to try to ask something different than what everybody else is asking. And he said, "You've got to."
That made me laugh out loud. That it's nothing personal, pal. That's so Biden.
Right. Well, that's the apology, right? It's not really an apology. It's like, well, it's not personal. There was never an "I'm sorry, I stepped out of line here." It was just, it's nothing personal. So therefore, it's conducting the business, move on. And great for Peter to be able to say it's over with. Let's move on.
Yeah. And then I'm sure you saw this. CNN's Jim Acosta. He says he has marks on his back from standing up to Trump. And so, there's the way that Peter Doocy handles things versus CNN's Jim Acosta, very different. When I think of him, I always think of him at the Easter roll at the White House where he starts screaming immigration questions over the kids. Like, there's a time and a place, probably not the place for that. But either way, he thinks he's saying he has marks on his back from Trump. So ridiculous. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, because he was told he's a deliverer of fake news and that he was, a terrible person, a terrible reporter. Because, that's comparable to being called an SOB. But poor Jim is scarred. Peter's ready to move on, but Jim's not. Jim is just not ready to move on. He's scarred. He's got the scars on his back. It's just awful that it happened to him. But, it's okay if it happens to somebody else. I mean, in that case, it's okay to move on, but not Jim. Not Jim. He's sensitive.
He is
come on, you
guy.
Feel for Jim. I know you do.
We have a little bit of a montage of Jim Acosta's dumbest moments. You guys put this together, so we'll take a look. Roll tape.
Political opponents. Yes, that is one thing that happens when democracy dies. Why stop at Congress, Newt? What's next, judges? Yes, when a would-be dictator seizes power, anything goes at that point. There goes the January 6th investigation. Like the Republican Party is going to stop him? Certainly not the 147 Republicans in the House and Senate who still voted to overturn the election results even after the attack on the Capitol. I suppose the dictator would occasionally sit down for an interview to take questions about what happened on January 6th, but it wouldn't be a real interview. So, of course, he would have to turn to Sean Hannity. Yeah, Sean would still be around. The same Sean Hannity who, according to the January 6th committee, texted the then White House press secretary after the insurrection to say no more stolen election talk. Impeachment, 25th Amendment are real. The Mussolini of Mar-a-Lago can seize another breadstick from the buffet down at his club, but he can't seize our elections. At least not yet.
Good thing usually they didn't have the audio running at the airports when they would run CNN. But it's just so absurd. And my biggest problem with Jim Acosta is that he always tried to make himself the story versus going out, having legitimate questions lined up, answering what people want to know. That's his job. He always had to make it about himself. He had to put on some huge show.
And here's the guy, he's calling him the Mussolini of Mar-a-Lago. He's calling him a dictator. The insults are still flowing. Obviously, Jim's scars on his back are still wide open and festering, it seems. And that's not even a compilation of the greatest hits. That's actually Jim from just this latest week, his show Democracy in Peril, which is a brand new show that I'm not even sure his relatives are watching. And it might as well just be called, Jim Acosta's Make-Believe Hour, because he goes down and talks about what it would be like if Trump was still in office and had won the last election or remained in office after the last election, and just conjures up his fantasies. And that's what he's talking about there. This isn't news. This is complete conjecture. But, Jim's still hurting. Those, he was called fake news, and he has to continue to deliver that. Maybe that's part of the healing process for Jim. I don't know.
Yeah, we'd always play the clips where Jim was at the Trump rallies, and then people behind him would just scream fake news. And I remember one of the lives that he did for CNN, he was so upset. I mean, it's incredible. And, also, too, he'll never turn the page on Trump. His whole life revolves it now. He probably dreams about Trump. And even when he's 90 years old, he'll still be talking about Trump. That's for sure. Well, Eric, we're going to leave it here. Thank you.
Thank you.